I'm originally from Buddledeck First Nation, so I had the opportunity of living right beside the stream, and I used to play with what I call minnows, but like reflecting now, they were at salmon par. And then it led to a lake, a freshwater lake, and the freshwater lake led to the Bredor Lakes. So there was always this connection between the river, the lake, a brook, the Bredor Lakes to the ocean. And so I've always had an amazing connection to the water that I'm always grateful for. And I wonder where I would be today if I didn't have that.
This is Unama'ki, one of the 7 districts of Mikmaw. The Mikmaw have lived on and been stewards of these lands and waters since time immemorial. Many indigenous people share the belief that we are only borrowing the land from future generations. There is a responsibility to be stewards of the land, to respect and protect it. This perspective drives the work of the Unama'ki Institute of Natural Resources, a Mikmaw-led environmental organization that integrates scientific research with traditional knowledge.
When we describe the Unama'ki Institute of Natural Resources, or UINR, we often say we're the voice of the Mikmaw people for natural resources. And I think the reason that we say that is the work that we do is very much driven by community. Once we're on the ground doing the projects, we work directly with our elders, our knowledge holders. They bring the knowledge they have and that relationship and that perspective of what's happening onto the land, and that directly informs the work and what we do.
So the Mikmaw values that we hold very dear at UINR are the Mikmaw values that we have that arise from our teachings, our cultural teachings that come from being Mikmaw and being who we are. The biggest value, of course, is the belief in Imsit Nogama, which is that we are connected. There's the interconnection of people, of air, of soil, of spirituality, of our ancestors, yesterday and tomorrow. So the Mikmaw belief in Imsit Nogama is fundamental to all the values that we have here at UINR.
We all come from one place. We all come from this earth. We all derive everything that we need to sustain ourselves from this earth. Indigenous communities always understood that. They didn't need to know of genetics, as an example, to know at that microscopic level that we're all made from the same basic elements, basic proteins, basic DNA.
I think it's about that balance that we have people who are able to walk in both worlds. We have people who are better at walking in one than others, and we rely on them. And I think that's important. And I think it demonstrates Imsit Nogama very well, because we are all interconnected and we need to have those relationships in order to fully understand. And that's another one of Mikmaw values, is that we know that no one person has all the education or the information or the knowledge to solve problems, and we try to work to reflect that.
As UINR was growing as an organization, and we start trying to come up with a vision statement or a purpose for organization, we very early on recognized that the resurgence or the revitalization of the practice of Nedigalimp was what ultimately would secure a brighter future, or a more sustainable future for not just the Mikmaw communities, but for Nova Scotians overall.
Nedigalimp is the value of living in harmony, not jeopardizing what we have now or for the future generations. And what I've learned about Nedigalimp that I did not understand previous to my work was when I work with our Mikmaw fishers and what they actually do to incorporate Nedigalimp into their work. Largely I found it's been about not being greedy, to take what you need, to do things in a manner that prevents waste. Ultimately, sharing is involved in ceremony, so that role of giving back to Mother Earth for what she has provided for your harvest.
The Mikmaw communities have stored these lands for thousands of years, and the fact that that responsibility is so entwined into our sense of identity has kind of changed the way that we approach our work. So yes, we do a lot of research and on-the-land work with biologists and technicians, but we also make a point of facilitating that relationship and that connection to the land through other initiatives, such as our on-the-land learning programs, because we truly believe that The resurgence of Nediglump and that sense of stewardship and responsibility at the end of the day is really it's what's going to help preserve these resources for future generations.
Other values that we do incorporate in our work is Edewaptamuk, so two-eyed seeing, and that's very prominent in a Mi'kmaq value system itself.
One thing that Albert Marshall had brought forward was this idea of two-eyed seeing, where you can learn the strengths of Western knowledge and knowledge systems and also use the same strengths from Indigenous knowledge systems and bring the two together. And how you can do that is through developing relationships and partnerships with First Nations communities. So they're at the table. So there's a voice at the table that's kind of bringing that perspective and helps to bring that knowledge system and guide the way in terms of how we can take the best of science and that scientific knowledge and Western tools and technology, and how can we apply that knowledge or that tool that acquires that knowledge through an Indigenous lens. It's our values and belief systems that inform what we do, and more importantly, why we do things in a certain way and how things can be done in a way that's more mindful of the land and our relationship to land and how a healthy ecosystem is so important.
When I was hired at UINR, we really didn't think about the viability of our knowledge system at the time. And it was something that we take for granted, I think. So being in a place where you can integrate both knowledge systems, like the Western science and also our own Mikmaw knowledge system, I think we're leaders in how we do that. And I don't think we tell the world enough about our story. But at the same time, it goes back to working with us. And then when you work with us, then you really learn about how we integrate Nediglump and how we integrate our practices while still maintaining that scientific standard and rigorous method that's required.
Umsidnogumak, Nediglump, and Edewaptamuk are guiding principles of UINR's work. Through their work in research, stewardship, and conservation, UINR shows that maintaining Mi'kmaq values and worldviews is a way to healthy ecosystems.
I am just so proud of our communities and our staff and the work that we're doing, and it's always been at the forefront of innovation in terms of Indigenous-led conservation, and it's never boring. It's always something new and exciting that's happening at UINR, and we can see the impact that it's making. I think that's the part that's most exciting about our work, is that it's so meaningful and so relevant, and I couldn't imagine working anywhere else.